Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we will resume where we left off in the previous video. Hope you will enjoy it. Without further ado, let's begin with this video. So as you can see here, I have Visual Studio Code open, which is the IDE that I will be using for typing HTML pages in this course. There are other IDEs and text editors that you can install to write HTML pages. I will be uploading a video about the IDEs that you can use and how to install them in another video. For now, I will be explaining some basic ideas that will help you before we jump into coding. You can see the result of this code by going to the code file location, right-click on the file, and then choose Open with the web browser of your liking. In my case, I'm using Firefox, so I will choose Open with Firefox. Now you can see that our basic HTML page is rendered on the browser. And that is how it looks like. On the very top of the screen, you can read the title of the page. Now let's go back to the code. You can see the title element over here, where the title is being displayed on the browser. In my previous video, I have explained the declaration element that describes the type of the document. Also the meta element, where it describes the document's characters, type, which is Unicode. If you haven't watched the video yet, I have listed its link in the description box below. Now let's go back to the code. First of all, you know by now that HTML elements give structure to the page. There are elements that are called block level and inline level. These elements have a default structure style. You can see on the code we have the h1 element, which its content is displayed as a one line in the browser. Just right after h1 element, we have the h2 element, which its content is displayed on a new line. Now this is called block level. There are some elements like h1, article paragraph, that displays their content on a new line, while other elements like the anchor or the stress emphasis, they display their content on the same line. For example, we have the word cutest. It's between the opening and the closing of the element stress emphasis. The word cutest on the browser is displayed on the same line as where this element is placed, and that is called inline level. Elements that have been previously embedded inline are categorized in HTML as phrasing content. Block elements always starts from a new line and covers the space from left to right as far as it can go. It will not create a new line, while inline elements, they don't start from a new line and they only cover the space that the elements are bounded by. Now you can see how the font looks different from each other, and I haven't yet added in the code a specified font type or size, and yet the text looks different. That is because the default style of the elements. Before HTML5, the element's default style was used to style the text, but now we do not depend on the element's default styles. We use CSS to give various styles. You can see the element small here on the code, how its content displayed on the browser in a small sized font. It was used before to lower the size of the text, but now in HTML5 we use it only to present fine print like legal disclaimer, but we change the font size in the CSS. Whether you choose an old element or HTML5 new elements, it doesn't matter regarding their presentation. Choose the elements that best describes the meaning of your content. So please don't use the h1 element, for example, to make the font looks bigger, or the small element to make it smaller. This is an incorrect usage of these elements. All styles that you desire will be changed from the CSS and and only the CSS. So now you probably feel that it is not hard to understand the elements and the semantics of HTML. It makes sense once you are familiar with. Now, as you can see on the code, there are 6 heading levels that you can use, with H1 being the most important, and H2 is a subheading of H1, and H3 is a subheading of H2, and so on. Just like when you write an essay, you have headings and subheadings. This is an image of the beautiful flower the stripes quill that I have added to the page. Now on the code, you can see the image element where I have added the path of my saved image in the source attribute. The image element is the primary choice to use for displaying images. From the name of the tag, you can understand what is its purpose. Now here is another image element which I have added. If we go back to the browser, you will only see one image, which is the first image element that you have seen, but you can read this text saying that this image is missing. Now back to the code. This image element, I have deliberately typed an incorrect image name. The image is not loaded on the browser because simply the image does not exist. So now you know if there is an issue in this image, such as the incorrect path name or incorrect file extension or some other problem, the image is not being fetched correctly. It will not be displayed on the browser. Now I have added an attribute called alternative. This attribute will display information about the image that you want it to be displayed. I wrote the message this image is missing, so when the image doesn't load, it will display the text you wrote in the alternative attribute. I will be explaining much more ideas about the image element in other videos. Now let's look at the paragraph element. Here you can type whatever text you want, and it will be displayed as a paragraph in the browser. It is a block level element. If you want another paragraph, you can just add another paragraph element. Paragraph can also take other elements inside of it. Like here, it contains the stress emphasis element and the anchor element. Now these elements called nested elements because they are nested from the paragraph element. The stress emphasis element, its purpose is to emphasize the content. If we go to the browser, the word cutest is displayed in italic. Again, this is the default style of the element. We do not use it to make text italic. We do that from the CSS or an element called italic, which I will be explaining later on. The anchor element over here is a very important element. It creates links for your page. It can link this page with another page, or a part of the same page, or an external web page. The href attribute in the anchor element takes a URL or a path to link. You can see here that I have added a URL to an external web page. If we go to the browser, I will click on the linked word, and as you can see, it took us to the page where I have provided its URL. You can also add the title attribute to display information about the link. Now we go back to the browser. You can see if I hover over the flower name, a title will appear that I have added in the title attribute. And you also can see on the bottom of the screen the path of the linked page. This will help the browser to understand that these links are related. So now you know why do HTML semantics matter. It improves accessibility and interactive content is available on different devices. It improves search engine optimization, how the code is lighter, and the speed for loading web pages. Now, HTML has three principal markup components. Elements. As you know now, it describes the meaning of the content, and it describes the different parts of an element. You have seen that elements can contain text and other elements, or they can be empty, and they can have one or more attributes. An empty element or a void element is an element that is a combination of an open and closed element. You can see on the code, for example, how the h1 element have a start, then the content, then finally the end. But the empty element is only one start and end at the same time. Like the image element over here, it starts with the less than sign, an initial, the attribute source, and another attribute title, then a forward slash, and finally a greater than sign. Empty elements like the normal ones can have attributes or none. Adding the forward slash at the end is optional, but it is better to add it. HTML5 is not case sensitive, but it's more customary to type all elements in lowercase letters. You probably heard me saying the word attribute a lot. The attribute contains information about the content, just like the title attribute in the image element. An attribute may have a value. As you saw, the values were enclosed with quotation marks. It is optional to add them, but it's more common to add them. Some attributes accept any value, while others are more limited. You have to choose the value from a list of choices. Attributes should all be written in lowercase letters, so as the values. As you can see on the code, the image has two attributes, the source and the title, and their values are enclosed in quotation marks. The source attribute have a URL value. The title's value is text. As you can see, all attributes are inside the start element. The order of the attributes doesn't matter. A space is typed to separate each attribute value pair from the other. Some attributes requires a measuring unit for their values and some don't. So we have reached the end of today's video. I hope it was useful. Thank you all for watching and hope to see you on the next video.